Hello and welcome to Ganz in Bewegung. Ganz in Bewegung means the whole of you in motion. Through our interviews, we explore health, well-being and personal growth from a holistic perspective, looking at how body, movement, environment, experience, emotions, breathing and thinking interact and influence one another. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Antti Rahikka. Antti is the co-founder of Sisu Grip, an innovative Finnish fitness walking pole designed to make walking feel more natural, comfortable, and enjoyable. Originally from Finland and now based in Zurich, he combines entrepreneurship, product development, and a genuine passion for helping people stay active. Together with his wife, Steffi, he founded Sisu Grip Switzerland and is helping bring this Finnish innovation to the European market. What I particularly appreciate about Antti is that he is not only interested in developing products, he is interested in solving real-life problems and creating experiences that encourage people to move more and enjoy movement again. Before we begin, I would like to share a short personal story. I first met Antti and his wife Steffi at a top rope climbing course and we connected immediately. When Antti told me about Sisu Grip, I became curious and wanted to experience the poles for myself. A little later, Antti brought me a pair of Sisu Grip poles and gave me a short introduction to how they work. A few weeks later, Steffi kindly offered me a personal Sisu Grip coaching session on the Uetliberg here in Zurich. During that walk, I noticed something I had never been aware of before. A small right left imbalance in the way I was using my arms while walking. It wasn't a big issue, but I found it fascinating. What fascinated me most was that the poles did not simply change the way I walked. They helped me notice how I was walking. Sometimes it takes a new experience to reveal a pattern that was there all along. And that is something very close to both the Alexander technique and the Ganz in Bewegung approach. I also learned another valuable lesson. When Antti first introduced me to the poles, he explained that the rubber tips should be removed when walking on natural trails. I understood it, I knew it, and then I forgot. Only during my walking session with Steffi, when she asked me to remove the rubber tips, did I realize that I had completely forgotten about it and had already worn them down quite a bit. It was a simple but powerful reminder that knowing is often not enough. Real learning happens through experience. And that is one of the reasons I'm looking so much forward to today's conversation. Because I believe we are talking about much more than walking poles. We are talking about movement, about habits, about awareness, about motivation, and about how we can help people rediscover the joy of moving. Antti, a very warm welcome to Ganz in Bewegung. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much, Cecile. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure, really.
Yeah, the pleasure is on my side. Antti, before we talk about Sisu Grip itself, let's start with the word Sisu. Many people outside Finland may never have heard it before. What does Sisu mean? And why was it the perfect name for Sisu Grip?
Well, yeah, that's true. The Sisu is a Finnish word, and we intentionally put it there on the pole. And believe it or not, in the beginning, we had, I think, 2 A4s full of names with the font 12 or something. And so we had a lot of candidates, and the list went smaller and smaller as we went by. But as we are a family company, so we also had my sister, both of my parents and my wife and her parents involved in this. So everyone had their own opinions. So it was kind of tricky to keep on voting. But at the end, when we found the Sisu Grip, it was just perfect. In the end, everyone agreed that this is the name for the product. And it took quite a while also to find this one combination of two words, which is very simple when you think about it. So, but what does Sisu mean? It's every Finnish person knows Sisu and the meaning of Sisu, basically. And it's like, how would I describe it? It's like quiet determination and persistence. It's like inner strength that you find. And it's not about like being loud and proud about it. It's very quiet. It's a very Finnish mental like, and it's just fitted perfectly for the pole because we wanted to tie it down to the origins. So Finland being the developing country where we're at. So that's why it became a sisu. And the grip is quite natural because the grip is very different looking, horizontal. So that's those two things kind of differentiate it from normal or different kinds of poles.
Oh, that's interesting. And I mean, every innovation starts with a problem. What was the problem that led your father and you to develop Sisu Grip in the first place? And how did you know it was worth pursuing?
Yeah, well, actually, the idea wasn't ours originally. It was from a Finnish inventor, Fredrik Sedlakius, who's a friend of my father's for about 20 years or so. And his neighbor came to him because she knew that he's kind of an inventive guy. And she had had a wrist injury and she really liked Nordic walking. So she came to him, to Frederick, and said, "Hey, Frederick, please invent me a pole that I can continue walking. I can't hold the normal pole anymore because my wrist hurts." And Frederick stayed and thought about it and started to visualize this kind of idea. And he actually took this kind of grip strength device and put it on a pole where he cut the top off and gave it to the neighbor. And the neighbor tried it and she was very excited about it. The wrist didn't hurt anymore and she could walk and it felt kind of natural and nice. So that's how the product came to be. But Frederick was not and is not this kind of product developer guy or had no interest of starting a business of his own. So when my father retired a few years back, he actually came to him and asked, "Hey, Yoko, would you like to buy this product and develop it and give it life?" And my father thought about it. And since me and my father, we both have a product development background, so it was kind of interesting also to see this because it was such far away from our previous field that we've been working on. And we didn't know if it's going to be a good or not. I mean, there's always questions, and even though we did marketing research, you can never be sure about it. And then came in the picture Mr. Tuomo Jantunen, who's I would consider kind of like a father figure of Nordic walking in a way. When the Nordic walking started from Finland in 1997, he was there like one of the guys who actually pushed it and pulled it and made it popular on that time. So it was kind of natural for Fredrik to go to him. And then he told us that, hey, this is a really good product. This is a good idea. I mean, the product wasn't there yet, but the idea was. And then he convinced us to give it a go. And we did a market research with many Nordic walkers and found out that there was an actual interest on the Nordic walking community on this, and people seemed to like it. And we built more prototypes and tested with groups of people. And yeah, it's kind of like the Nordic walkers made us believe that it's worth pursuing.
Wonderful. When you look back at the development process, what was one assumption you had at the beginning that turned out to be completely wrong?
I mean, there were so many things along the road. I could describe hundreds of little things that went wrong and what we thought was going to work and which didn't. But I would say the most interesting ones would be the thing that we thought that the actual mechanism and how to walk with it would be, and how to move and use it would be the hardest part to make people understand how to use. But in reality, then when the product was ready and it was on the market, we quickly realized that it's mostly just 10 to 20 meters, and people have this aha moment, and it's just there. And this was really one of the biggest ones, I would say. And also that it was solving problems that we didn't or couldn't anticipate, which was more directed to comfort and motivation. That was complete surprise that we didn't even think about. So that was kind of, I'd say, the biggest surprises for us.
Yeah, and I can imagine because I never use Nordic walking sticks myself. I never had. So this is completely new for me, and I was really very quickly noticing the change, and I think it's quite fun to use them. So I use them more and more, even though people here in Switzerland they are not so used, and they look different, and of course people look and think and and think, oh, does she have knee problems? Probably, sometimes funny questions come up if you walk with walking sticks, these kind of poles.
Absolutely.
Either you are
Yeah,
very sportive or you have a problem. That's what people think. But I hope this changes in the future somehow.
we will see. We will see.
Yeah.
It remains interesting to look at.
You've now seen many people try Sisu Grip for the very first time. What's the reaction that keeps repeating itself again and again?
No, this is easy. It's basically the words I could put on everyone's mouth who touch it the first time. They take it and they say, "Oh, these feel comfortable." And then when they start walking with it, it's just, you hear this, "Oh, wow, it's so soft. Oh, it's so rhythmic. Oh, it pushes me forward." Like these kind of words just keep popping out. And I think you're right, what you said there, the shape is really confusing people. They don't know where to put it. Is it a walking aid, or is it a sports device, or what is it? What is it for? Because it looks so different. So what I think is constant with people is that they come, they look at it, and they're not quite sure what it is. Then they try it, then these words come out, and then they just, yeah, either love it or don't. But it's just beautiful to see how quickly it fits to people's own gait and own walking rhythm. It's very natural, I would say, for many people.
Ah, okay. So what do you think people are actually experiencing at that moment? Is it really this natural way of walking, would you say, or this rhythmic?
Yeah, I think it took us also a little bit of while to kind of figure out all of these things, because we needed hundreds and thousands of people to walk with them and see it ourselves before we could kind of pinpoint the locations of why does it feel different, why do everyone feel like this. So it comes down to basically the grip, which is horizontal, and it's ergonomically shaped into your hand. It's very soft. It's nice to fold. So the first initial thought is like, wow, this is comfortable. And it puts the wrist into a natural kind of position. And also what makes it very different for the user is the spring, because the spring absorbs the energy. When it hits the ground, it doesn't really give the tremors from the ground, it absorbs them. And the most important thing that we can find is that the spring, when it's loaded, so when you press it, the spring pushes you forward at the same time as your heel lifts the ground on the back leg. So it's kind of like automatized, or it automatized the movement or the timing of the push. And when you think of a normal Nordic walking pole or hiking pole, you actually actively need to push in the right time. So using your muscles actively. And Sisu Grip, it's like when you press it and your heel leaves the ground, it just starts pushing you forward. So what it basically means is that it adapts to your walking rhythm and gait and just times the push perfectly. It's not going to push you all the way forward, but it gives you this kick forward that your muscles say, okay, let's go. So I would say what they experience is like a small positive signal for the body. And when it feels pleasant, the body just says like, hey, I could do this longer.
Yeah, yeah. It's really sometimes, I see people walking with no poles and nothing, and they look so heavy. There is no upward force, somehow. It's just the gravity pulling them down into the ground. And when they have even normal poles, they walk differently, they have a kind of activation in the upper body. I noticed
Mhm.
myself that it's really this activation because with the hands, when you normally walk without poles, you don't have a rebound from the arm into the whole postural system, and with those, I just, that people can imagine how they look like, and that they can see that here it's really rebounding and pushing the arm backwards, and that's so beautiful, this feeling of also the activation of the whole upper body, not only the legs, but it's the rebound, this natural way of bouncing from the floor and not sinking in. It's very fascinating for me. I have to say, it's really a great tool. I love it, and it's looking completely different. That's why I wanted to show it, that people have an idea about what we are talking about the whole time.
Okay.
Uh, it's so new. So, and also during my coaching with Steffi, this right-left imbalance was something that, is it only me, or do you see this in a lot of people that they are having slight imbalances, that they notice them better?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I see it quite a lot actually, but it really varies. It doesn't necessarily need to be imbalances only. There are a lot of things. Some people have, like, let's say their arms are moving out of sync, or the other arm goes further for no particular reason, or the stride, the length of the step is shorter on the other foot, or the other shoulder might be higher, and when you walk like that you kind of notice it from your posture. And also that because the poles, they are kind of moving down on where you normally would walk, so your hand is like a pendulum, and that's the height where we want to move this pole. And when you're moving there and you're using the poles and they're pushing you up, your kind of posture gets up, and people notice, like, wow, I'm walking more straight up. I mean, these are, none of them have like any scientific background. I'm just saying what people have told me and what I have noticed, because this is such a new product, came out in last July, a year ago. So we haven't had time to properly study it or have it studied yet, but it's on the books and coming. And I think also there's a little bit of a thing that I don't like in, let's say, traditional Nordic walking. Nothing away from that. It's a great sport, and this is not supposed to be compared purely to Nordic walking or hiking poles or anything. This is kind of its own thing, Sisu walking. And what I would say is that on Sisu walking, we don't necessarily want to focus solely on technique. What we're looking for more, in my opinion, is that it should be like awareness without the pressure of performing. So your goal is to have like is not to have a perfect technique. It's like noticing your body and moving relaxed as your body is moving. Just move along with it. And this way people do notice these kind of imbalances and different ways of walking. Maybe the other foot is a little bit open to left or right, and they haven't just noticed it before. So this is, I think, is the kind of the corner and key of Sisu walking.
Through Sisu Grip, you've met many people who wanted to move more, be more active, or spend more time outdoors. What have those conversations taught you about what really motivates people to move?
Yeah, well, I think motivation is very individual. It's not, you can't say this motivates everyone. It's very individual. But what I've seen that kind of repeats on the customers and the people that I've met, which is many thousands and thousands, I would say, on the walking courses, I'd say it needs to be positive experience. And it needs to feel easy, whatever it is. And it needs to start small. So I think that would be the main motivator for the people. And also, what we noticed interestingly is that social encounters, when you introduce that and you have two people that don't know each other and they both bump into each other and they have the Sisu Grip poles, which looks so different that you instantly recognize them, they start talking without any reason except the pose. So this is also what people have said, that they have made new friends and kind of created new groups of walking groups on their own neighborhood. And I think this is really good. It sounds like a cliche, but that's how it is. So I would say when walking in our business, when walking becomes more simple, more pleasant and shared with others, you tend to do it more. And I think that kind of wraps it into motivation for some people, not everyone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me like, when you see little toddlers and children, small children walking, they actually don't walk. They bounce up and down
Yeah.
from the ground. They are never still and they always bounce a little bit and go from there. And it reminded me when I first started walking with those poles that it's reminded me to this feeling, this natural feeling of bouncing from the floor. And I think this is also the childish kind of energy, the playfulness probably that sparks when you use them, that makes people feel like, this is new, this is fresh, this reminds me. It's not something completely different because they probably remember how it was when they were little, how walking was so much fun, running was so much fun. And we forget about it because we lose this bouncing. And actually, the
Mm.
bounce is helping the fascia also to stay fluid and to stay like gum, somehow flexible and working well for the body. Science knows about it, that it's really helpful, the bounce in the body, to help the fascia stay lively and supporting us. So I think both components will probably, will be activated with those Sisu grips. So that's probably another, my side, what I noticed. So
It's
what do
always
you think?
important to hear.
What do you think
That,
separates the people who make movement a natural part of their life from those who keep trying and then they stop and they try and they stop?
yeah, I'm no specialist on this, but I do have an opinion. So I would say what I've noticed from my own life and from everyone's life is that routines matter. If you can introduce a simple, enjoyable routine in your life that needs to, in my books anyway, start very easy, then I think it has a chance of prevailing and become a routine that you actually enjoy. But I think that really separates the people who would naturally keep on moving is that they do build these routines and they involve other people. Let's say, like climbing, for example. I enjoy it immensely. I would go climbing every time I have a chance. So, this is something that I really truly enjoy. So, I make time for it, I make space for it. And it doesn't feel like exercising, but it's a great exercise for the whole body. So if I would, let's say, instead go to the gym, which I have done in my past quite a lot, but it was more of like I had a goal then. And then the goal kind of vanished and the motivation vanished and the routine just died off because I didn't find it meaningful and motivating for me. And I couldn't keep up the routine. So I think that's really the key for people who keep moving is to build routines, do things, do sports, do hobbies that you really, really love to do. It doesn't feel like I have to do it. It's more like I want to do it. But what separates these people really is that I think the other part that keeps moving, they are searching for these things. They try new things. And the other ones do not. They do or try to do something that they really would like to or they have to do to stay fit. but they don't enjoy it, and they don't try various things like, let's say, dancing or something. So I think that's the difference between these kind of groups, but I guess also a little bit individual there.
Yeah, I think it also depends on the health issues. Some people have health issues, and movement is a pain, so they stop probably moving so much. And I think from this component on, the Sisu grips can also help with walking downwards, I noticed. And I can imagine that people with knee pain will very much love this kind of help when they go down or up, to support all the joints in the body. So this just from my side, that I think this is separating people who love to move because it's not painful, it's enjoyable, and people with pain probably not so much. And that could be another reason,
Yeah,
probably, my
absolutely.
opinion. You often encourage people to walk in nature. Why do you think a walk in the forest feels different from a walk through a busy city or a shopping center?
Well, for me, coming from Finland, I mean, it's a no-brainer for me because I also lived most of my life in the forest, basically. I mean, not too far from Helsinki, but still far enough to be like surrounded by forest. So I played always in the forest, and I find peace in there. Very different thing than walking on Helsinki or Zurich or any kind of busy street or a shopping mall. I feel it's too busy and loud to me. I can't really kind of hear my own thoughts or relax. So this could be individually my thing, because being like from a kid in this kind of forest environment, it's pretty natural for me to kind of find a safe haven from that environment. But I think in general, in nature, you can kind of charge your batteries better, and there is no this kind of, how would I put it, like need to compare yourself into anyone or anything, because you're there with the nature, and it's very relaxing kind of environment to be. And I would just, I don't know, I can't really say nothing much more than that, because that's very individual also, who is relaxed and happy where.
So, at what point did you realize that you weren't just developing a walking pole anymore? That you were creating something that influences motivation, confidence, and even social connection? You
Hmm.
told us already about the meet and connect part, but the others.
Yeah, I did. And I mean, it was clear for us as product developers that first we were building a product. We were developing a new product, and we were kind of focusing solely on that. And these other things, I would say, came as a byproduct along with that product, that how it became to be and what kind of product it is and what does it do. And I think the biggest impacts from my perspective is that it gave, like I saw that it gave people to the reason to go outside and to move. And by far the biggest also social aspect related thing is that we started in Finland last September this kind of pilot project of indoor walking, because in Finland it's most of the time of the winter it's going to be frozen and slippery and rainy and all kinds of darkness everywhere. So seniors particularly did not enjoy or could not even go outside because it's so icy, and they were scared. They were afraid that they're going to fall down. So we had this idea of contacting this sports hall where you have like full scale football hall inside of that hall. And then we went there and asked from them and the city if we could organize this pilot for 3 months, and they would invite, or we would invite, the local seniors during the day in the quiet hours on the hall to walk in a safe environment and just in the warmth. And of course, we brought the Sisu poles there and introduced that. So it was part of our project as well to introduce the pole there. But it became so much more. The whole society and community in that area, on that city, the seniors started floating in and coming in to walk in there every Thursday from 11 till 11:30 in the mornings when the halls were quiet, and they would play music in there, old Finnish tunes, and they were talking and meeting each other. And this one was running from September till now in the spring, so every Thursday in that hall, and it was free of charge for everyone. So the city was sponsoring this to the seniors, which was really nice thing to do, and gave them an opportunity not only to go and walk and move as they'd like, but also to go and socialize, to meet other people. And I have to say, many people came there just to talk. They might walk one round with or without poles, didn't matter, but they would come there and meet other people. And that was one of the key things that I would say that become like impactful for me personally. So basically, the product became a reason to meet and move for them, or was at least involved.
So this is probably something you didn't expect. That was there something else that you learned through this journey that you never expected to learn?
Yeah, I know for sure many things, but let's say when it comes to people, as I mentioned before, my previous background was in the building industry, developing products there. And oh boy, that's a very different environment with time schedules and stress and everything. It's a very different environment. Also, good things happen there, and it's a nice place if you like it. But for me personally, I found it so refreshing that I did not expect when I came to the health sector more with the pole. I'm meeting such a lovely people and with the just very, very different atmosphere in all the people encounters. And this I did not expect up on this scale. It kind of surprised me quite a lot. What else? I don't know. I think the biggest thing is by far the people. I mean, the lessons came after the product launch, and I met the people.
That's so interesting, isn't it? It starts with
Yeah.
a poll and ends up with new friends and new communities. That's great. What a success story. I mean, even though you didn't launch it now in Switzerland, it's just the beginning, but I feel like this is something big, what people really need. It's connection nowadays. With all this online stuff going on, that's so important. And it's really fantastic that you are here now in Switzerland. And I can't wait to hear more about what's going on your side. I saw already you have different projects going on. Probably you like to tell us a little bit what's going on in Switzerland. Is there a group building or something developing here for our people?
Yeah, I mean, there are the problem that we've had is that in the company officially there is in Finland me and my father, and here in Switzerland it's me and my wife Steffi. So the resources I would say are quite limited for us. So that's why we've been kind of putting the brakes and focusing on one market because we need to kind of enter one market at a time with these limited resources, and we do want to kind of proceed slowly. But now, funny that you asked, because we have on next Monday, on is it 22nd? Yes, 22nd. We do have a first Sisu walk in Switzerland, which is very small. It's kind of like we're trying it out here. We have had 50 of these events in Finland during the last year. So these are basically the events what we organize, and we invite people. It's free of charge. You can just come and get to know the poles, get to know us, and we will guide people how to use it. And we walk a route together as a group after we've checked the technique and everyone's kind of adjusted with the poles. And it's quite short, I'd say 1 hour and a half. And the point is that we are trying to introduce people to this product by testing. So we are on our way, and there's also some interesting things happening in Switzerland that I just can't tell you yet. But things are coming. We are coming and going, and Switzerland is definitely kind of next target here that we're going to enter.
Wonderful. Oh, I can't wait. And people can just check out what's going on the website, I hope.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
You
Yeah,
will
yeah, yeah.
post regularly. Is there a particular person or experience or piece of feedback that reminds you why you're doing this work?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Not an individual person, I would say. It's more of like these Sisu walks, they're also very important to me and to us because there we meet the people, we meet the customers, we meet the people who tried the very first time. We get to teach them how it's being used. So we also learn a lot on these events. And I would say that by far there's two things connecting to these events that really motivates me and keeps me kind of wake up the next day. It's the it's the fact that when people come in there, they see the pole and you can see that they're skeptic and they're like, what is this? And then they grab it in their hands and try it, and you can see the face changing and being like, oh, and then comes always the same words out of their mouth. Oh, this is so comfortable. Oh, this is so soft and rhythmic and bouncy. And that's kind of the energy that I'm looking for from those encounters. So what do people think? What do they say? And it always makes me smile to see that happening. And the other part that kind of motivates me on this front is definitely when you give the pose to someone and they don't quite get it. They are walking with the kind of different technique. They didn't quite find it yet. And then you teach them maybe 5 minutes, you're doing some exercises and trying different things. And then when it clicks, it's like looking at a child who learns finally how to drive with a bicycle. And it's like, aha, like this, now I feel it. And this is also like really, really cool experience to just see it every time again and again. So
Mhm.
that
Very
kind of sums it up why I like doing it.
Listening to you today, I hear themes like movement, of course, and awareness, nature, habits, motivation, and connection. If people remember just one thing from our conversation, what would you like it to be?
Well, I would say everyday movement doesn't need to be intense. It can be if that's your thing, but it doesn't need to be. So, and it doesn't need to be complicated either. So, just focusing on the simplest things and just doing what you really like to do. So, basically, in a nutshell, I would say that like the best movement is the movement that you want to repeat, and that would be kind of the important thing that I think I find in my life really important.
Antti, thank you so much for joining us today. What I particularly appreciate about our conversation is that we have not simply talked about walking poles. We have talked about how small changes can create meaningful results, how positive experiences create motivation, how nature, movement, and community support one another. Thank you for your time, your openness, and for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you very much for having me, Susie. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure for me too. For everyone who would like to learn more, try the polls or connect with Antti and his team, please visit www.sisugrip.ch. And Antti has kindly offered a special gift for the Ganz in Bewegung community. You can use the coupon code SISU GIP. It's Ganz in Bewegung, the shortcut, to remember it easier, on the Swiss website. Thank you again, Antti, for sharing your story, your experience, and your insights with us today. And thank you to everyone who joined us. If you enjoyed this interview, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who might benefit from it. Until next time, this is Ganz in Bewegung, the whole of you in motion. Take care and keep moving.